Yeah, we're back on the Sportsmax Zone, and we start with one of the most significant moments in the history of Caribbean football. Jamaica's Reggae Girlz created more history at the FIFA Women's World Cup on Wednesday as they advanced to the knockout stage of the tournament for the first time ever. Now, in a resilient and defiant performance, the Jamaicans held world number 9 Brazil to a 0-0 draw in their Group F encounter at Melbourne in Australia at the Rectangular Stadium. The victory sealed Jamaica's place in the last 16 as they finished on 5 points, 2 behind group winners France, who ended the group stage with a 6-3 win over Panama. Now, it is the first time since 1995 that Brazil have failed to reach the last 16. Reggae Girlz head coach Lon Donaldson says his team's success against Brazil was down to the players sticking to the game plan.
Well, I'll go first. Our plan was not to give up a goal. That was the first plan, and secondly was to take away the strength of Brazil. We know we would have to play without the ball and just kind of control the game without the ball, and we know we have a fantastic custodian in goal, so we know that we trust her. So I mean, and that was the game plan, to take away certain areas from Brazil, and then we try to get one, and I think we ended up 0-0, so I think job well done.
So you may remember that Jamaica conceded 12 goals at the 2019 World Cup, including 3 against Brazil, but Donaldson says that experience gave them belief and confidence coming into this campaign.
In 2019, we weren't expected to be in the World Cup. We just actually get a group together, the program was fairly new, and we say, oh, we're in, and then, but it was what they would say, the proverbial deer in a headlight syndrome. I don't know if I can say kangaroo in a headlight or whatever here. But so that was we were younger, we didn't have, professional players like Rebecca and Drew Spence and those girls, but we were younger. The Swaby sisters were very, very young. Now they're very mature, and you see what they can do. Denisha Blackwood was maybe 21 or something like that. Even Bonnie Shaw was 21, 22. So it was a very young team. Jody Brown was 16. So, just to name a few, but we were a very young team, and I think we were happy to be there, but this time around we just say, hey, we're just not going to show up. I mean, from day one we say we need to get out of the group, and everybody said it was impossible. And we said, again, the mentality of us is nothing is impossible. So, and that's why we just stuck together.
The Reggae Girlz will play the winner of Group H, which is likely to be Colombia or Germany. The match is set for next week, Tuesday, the 8th of August. We are joined by Charles Edwards, former Reggae Girlz coach, to look at this outstanding achievement and how the girls were able to stave off Brazil's attacking force. Well, to your credit, Coach Edwards, you did suggest in the preview on Monday that it wasn't beyond the Jamaica Reggae Girlz to get this kind of result and make it into the round of 16. But having seen it now unfold, what are your thoughts of what happened today?
I'm still on cloud 9. I remember last night setting 2 alarms. I was not going to miss the game. And when I got up, I went downstairs, set up everything. I was there watching it, very nervous, and I'm so excited because I've always preached it, that we ought to stop celebrating making it to the tournaments and try to achieve something more than that and then grow from there. And today, this morning, we accomplished that. It was fantastic. You saw a complete team, a collective team effort, especially defensively. They played magnificently. They worked, the midfield line was supporting the defensive line so well. You hardly saw them going forward. But I could live with that because at the end of the day, 0-0 was always going to be a victory for us.
Yeah. Lon Donaldson, in the post-match interview, articulated that he knew Brazil would have more of the ball. He knew that the Jamaicans would have to defend really well to get the result they wanted. Possession-wise, Brazil had 68% of the ball, leaving Jamaica with 32%. That obviously didn't bother the tactical Jamaican structure and what they wanted. How much credit are you giving the coaching staff for this result?
I think I gave them a lot of credit for it. I think also Lauren mentioned something that the girls stuck to the plan. They did well because a lot of times coaches, they have a plan set out and the players, because of the pressure and nerves or whatever, may deviate from the plan. And that is what Brazil may have wanted, just that slight deviation to make inroads into the Jamaican defense and destroy them. But if you watch the game keenly, normally coaches would give up a third of the field. We didn't give up a complete third. We gave up about 15% because if they went wide, we could go out and defend quickly. And if they came inside, we could slip in and defend quickly. So I thought that was a master plan, whether he set it or not, but it worked beautifully. And then the midfield line, they stood in front of the defense and they created a wall in front of the defense, because I think our defensive line, player for player, is not the best, but collectively they play well together. And with that midfield line in front of them, it was exceptional. Because if you watch the Brazilian, 95% of their attacks went outside. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they came in, they had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
It was always clogged. They either had to turn back or they tried to force their way through and they lost it. Mm-hmm. There was no serious shots on goal. So that is testimony of how well the defensive line played, and they have good shooters.
Yeah, just before Mariah comes in, I want to elaborate on the point that you just made, because countless times watching the match, and we saw the Brazilians approach the Jamaican 18-yard box, whether it was from the left flank or right flank, there was no way through.
No.
And they had to either play lateral passes or go back to the halfway line, because
Precisely.
there was nothing inside for them to breach.
What it was is the first player pressed them.
Yes.
And as soon as the player pressed and they beat them, what they also did was use the line as part, a 13th player, or a 12th player, and a 13th player.
Yes.
So as soon as they came, they pushed them to the line, so the line became our teammate.
Yes.
And as soon as they cut in, somebody was there to greet
right.
them. Mm-hmm. So there was absolutely nowhere for them to go, and I was so proud of that. I mean, I don't like defensive football like that, but it
Generally,
worked.
yes.
Generally.
But it was needed today.
It was needed today.
And
because,
it worked.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying, and it worked.
It worked beautifully. Not just worked, beautifully. The first time ever in the Caribbean, any team has gone to the second round, the finals, the knockout stages. I mean, it's a fantastic feat for us.
And as we're talking about defense, I want to single out Rebecca Spencer. She was awarded the player of the match. But Coach, just a bit about her and how she went about this tournament. We spoke about creating history. She's the first Jamaican, of course, to keep 3 clean sheets at the FIFA World Cup.
Yes. She was my player of the match. I mean, technically she was great. She never had any outstanding shots to save, but her technical ability, the way she handled the ball was great. She knew when to make a pass out by throwing it or whether she had to boot it upfield, and I thought she played a very good game.
Where did Brazil lose this one, though? Because we have to keep reminding our viewers and remembering that going into this World Cup, Brazil, along with France, were favorites in this group.
Yes, but we have to remember now, Tom rule from coaches, you control your opponents well and allow them to play as well as you want them to, and that's what we did today. The Brazilians are flair players, but we took away space from them. They never had space to play flair, and if you watch the game, they hammered us on the outsides. They went down the flanks, and I think about the 80th minute when they realized they weren't getting through, they started to drive down the middle. And if you looked at Lauren, at one point he was doing like this, saying to the team, compact.
Yeah.
Compact. Meaning now that let's let go outside and come inside now, because their point of attack now is coming through the middle. And I was like, well done, coach, well done. Because then you saw them running into another wall again. And there was nowhere for them to go. So overall, they were very frustrated. And the plan worked.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We spoke about defense, but are you concerned that throughout the campaign so far, we've only scored 1 goal and, well, we've gotten the 5 points, but that 1 goal, is that a concern for you?
It's a big concern because 1 goal scored and 0 conceded put us still at a +1. But going into the second stage, it is showing signs of lack of ability to score goals. And at this stage, 1 point can't help you. There's no such thing as 1 point at this stage. You either win or you go home. So it's going to be a totally different game for us now. We have to, but the big plus to that is leading up to this tournament, we had conceded about 22 goals.
Yeah.
So this is a big plus for us to concede 0. So now what the coach needs to do is start to get his attacking third going now, how to get goals scored. And you saw we came back to the France game where we locked it behind and we played through to one player. That can't work.
Yeah.
You're going up against bigger opponents now, and they're going to attack you. And you're going to be open around the back because you want goals also. So we have to find a way for our mid-third to transition, mid-line to transition quickly up to support whomever you play the ball through to, whether it's a Jody Brown or a Kadisha Bonishaw.
Yeah.
Coach, the commentator today, late in the second half or mid-second half, said something to the effect that Marta and Adriana mentioned a couple of their top players appearing to be tame today, or not finding their best form. But I would suggest that they weren't allowed to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with you right there. And it comes back to our two lines playing closely together, and not just playing closely, but apparently the midfield was shifting left and right in such a way that they were plugging the gaps between the defensive lines. So, and then you created these points. Once you beat them, you run into another player. You beat this line, you run into another player. They had no room to play, and that was very good. I think the coach really worked well with the team in terms of collective defensive work, and it paid off. I mean, it paid off well.
Yeah. To address the issue that you just spoke of regarding trying to fortify or enhance the attacking force, there is talent in the team outside of Khadija Bonishaw. I'm talking attacking ability now. Give me a comment on Jody Brown's form, her output so far in this tournament, because I think she can do a lot better than we have seen so far. Trudy Carter is a bench player, is an option coming off the bench. Going forward, if the team needs, well, not if, the team needs to get goals, because we're now heading into the knockout stages. So they must get goals to advance from here. Talk to us about the coach's plan to ensure that Shaw is not their only outlet to get goals.
We have players. You have mentioned some, and even Drew Spence is an attacking midfielder who can play well. But we played a 4-1-4-1, which is a 4-5-1 to me because we were defensive. Now, I think the concern would have been conceding 22 goals. We need to stop goals. Now that we have proven to ourselves that we can stop it, we now need to prove that we can score goals. So we have to start attacking. So the shape has to change. It's either the shape is going to change or you're going to have a quick transition from mid to forward. So I'm not sure which option the coach should have taken. I would have changed the shape because it's easy on the girls because now legs are going, injuries are coming in, players are getting fatigue. You saw quite a few players going down this morning with cramps and stuff like that. So I would have changed the formation. I mean, the formation in terms of a more attacking formation, but maybe play with two holding mids. Still to, maybe a flip 4-3-3, something like that, and transition back into midfield instead of from midfield forward, and see if we can save some legs and get more attack going. But I think what the coach has to do now is a lot of simulation and training. It can't be hard pace, hard training or anything like that, but just a simulation in terms of understanding. And we have the ability, because when you see Khadisha Bonishaw getting the ball or Jody Brown, there's no support around them. And they look selfish because they're alone up there. Maybe the instructions was to hold up the ball up there while they can regroup or get somebody going forward. But they keep bungling us over with 2 or 3 players. So what we have to do is change it now, get that attacking game going, get the support around the players and push them forward like that.
Yeah. And of course, if it is that Khadija Shaw continues to be the point player, which she has earned because she's a world-class player, it would be a lot easier for Jamaica's opponents to plan for them.
Much easier. That is why we can't play this same game. Brazil did the same thing to Bonishaw 2019, and they did it to her again.
Yes.
So it should have been proven to the coaching staff now that she can't just be a lone player up there if we're going to go for goals. You have a Jody Brown. Get one of them up and play off each other. Then you bring the artillery coming from behind. And we slide, instead of sliding across the defensive line, we slide back at the top of the key where somebody can finish.
Yeah. Coach, so you'll have to set 2 more alarms come Tuesday. Who are you hoping that we face? Will it be Colombia or Germany?
You know, Germany has won the World Cup already.
That's Lance's team. He thinks he's German.
I don't think I'm German for the record, but continue.
If you pay attention to a team, a champion, you give them a second chance, they could be dangerous.
Yes.
Colombia has this potent team and really dangerous player up front, and I don't know. I really don't know. But I think I'd rather play Colombia. And why? The fitness and the hard running of the Germans could, prove very detrimental to us because our legs are going.
Yeah.
They will take you up and down that field all day.
Talk to us, Coach, about what this result means for Jamaica's women's football, because they have, they had already surpassed the men by getting to the World Cup for a second time. So the men are in the background at the moment, but they continue to struggle for recognition, struggle for sponsorship, and a struggle for respect.
That's a funny question because there are two thoughts in my head. One not so nice and one very nice. And then one not so nice is about the JFF because we have been in great situations before and the JFF has done nothing much about it. They claim that they're doing it, but yet still every day, even this campaign, still having money issues. The fields weren't in place for training, the games that the team wanted weren't there, and it's so much things, on and on. But I'm hoping with this, it will somehow nudge them and let them realize that this is a real deal and they need support. We need a committee that can sit down and deal with women's football different from men's football. The potential, the average age of this team is 23. You're looking at a team that could have every single player back in the World Cup 2027. So why not start planning from now? Let us start, improving our women's league here also, because I'd love to see some of the local-based players knocking on the door to get a game. Even if they don't get it, give them the opportunity to knock on the door.
Yeah.
It's too often now that since this team has been put together that we have ignored the local players. And it's not that they're up to par, but the system has created that ignore. In the sense that they're not adequately playing in a proper league or trained properly or anything like that. So, of course, they're not going to be up to par. These other girls are playing in England, in the Women's Premier League, in France, all over the world. We need a system. It won't be like that, but at least get the coaches up to par and get a system where the players can really have their games improved and look good, because we have natural talent here. And what is happening in Jamaica right now is a lot of players are like, there's no chance for me, so I'm not going to bother to play. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I got a call from one of my friends in Dominica this morning watching the game, and he wanted to know how many of the players were homegrown and how many of the players were actually based in Jamaica. And I did, concede that pretty much the entire team is overseas, is from overseas and from parentage, but there are players in the team, in the squad, who learned how to play their football in Jamaica and are not in this squad by parentage.
Exactly. You have Bonnie Shaw, who's the biggest player in the squad.
That's right. Jody Brown.
Jody Brown. Carter.
Trudy Carter. Yes.
Can I go any further? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Plummer.
Yes, Plummer is also.
And she was captain. Wasn't she captain
She was
for
captain
2019?
2019.
Yeah. So I wanted to make the point that there is a local base that can inspire the players who are
definitely
who grew up in Jamaica and played their football in Jamaica.
If we can get the league,
Bunny Shaw is the best example, really, as you just said.
Everybody should want to be
I've played against Shaw several times in the league, and she was very potent, very dangerous at the time as a youngster. Yeah. She had that.
And you were coaching the #1 team, and you still found Bunny Shaw a threat.
Yes, because we had to plan for her.
He coached Barbican, okay?
I know.
That's the top team.
Why does it make them the top team, Lance? Tell me.
Because they were multiple champions. They were invincible for several years.
There's something else behind that.
Stop instigating.
But we'll leave it. One of my biggest worry is that this happens like the West Indies women's team, and I don't really want to mix the sport, but right now we have a brilliant crop of ladies, and I don't want that. We don't groom the youngsters for the level that we are at right now. And let's just say in a couple of years from now, I know Coach said, yes, we still have time with these ladies, but there isn't that transition for new players to pick up that mantle on the level that this group is at. And that's something I am concerned about. I'm not even Jamaican, but I'm looking at the system now, and I feel like if we don't do it now, we're going to be in trouble.
True.
Yeah, you're a quick learner, Mariah.
Yeah.
No, I've been
Very
here,
true.
you know, I've been around
But
the
you know,
ladies.
Lance, we had a good league prior to COVID, a pretty decent league. When we were playing, it was very competitive. Yeah. And you had Omelin Davis, who was a professional overseas, who came back and was playing here. So if we can get the league back to that standard and a little bit above,
yes,
we could produce a few players who could knock on the door and maybe potentially get in the squad.
Okay, Charles Edwards, former Jamaica national women's coach. He will stay with us for the next segment, for which we'll be joined by former Jamaica international Tashana Vincent to talk more about the Reggae Girlz and their successes down under. Back after this.